Yeah, like you said, we actually closed about 0.6% on the balls today in the green. Week on the week actually is a 0.1% still on the green. I guess the profit figures came in, but at least the attractiveness of the stock looked good for the bulls to continue the run on the market. I think it's just a matter of good valuation and as a point where people see good time to take profit for the speculators, you see this kind of move coming into the market.
Yeah.
Starting the week, it was really a huge rise on the course of the week. So Abbey was expected that sometime during the week it would have actually it would take a reversal. And at the end of the week, it's still ending in the green. And we'll see it as in a positive light, and we'll continue to expect to continue the uptick for the into the start of next week.
Well, it's interesting that we saw a bit of positivity feeding through into the market, given the fact that we did see a bit of money taken off the table. Do you think that some investors are viewing it as a buying opportunity at this point?
Yeah, like I said, I mean the positivity actually started at the start of the week. You actually see the huge movement for the first 2 days of the week over one percentage point in those movements. Like I said, good valuation had come in at those points, and you saw people actually taking in entry levels. Specs coming in to sell off on the back of this huge movement, but at least, like I said, at the end of the week, it's still a 0.1% move on the bourse, and it shows that the valuation is still there.
Just also taking a look at how the banking stocks have been performing, because they were the laggards for the most part of this week, and we know that they had a really tough time. We've seen more buying into the likes of the construction sector, and of course those industrials enjoying the gains as opposed to the banking sector. Where do investors expect the most money to flow going forward? Do you think banks are going to become the preferred investment?
Well, I guess typically at this period you would expect Q3 earnings to hit the market, and on the back of that, a lot of people would actually want to see how the banking sector actually fared in terms of Q3 results. I actually think that good valuation might begin to come in for the banking sectors, even if they've been the laggards before. For the people that trade on the laggard and leading basis, they might find a good valuation in banking stocks as the Q3 results begin to pour in. So that I do not think it's a negative outlook for the banks. I actually think it might also suggest good entry point for the financial stocks.
Well, Nwabueze, let's focus on the reserves data that we had out, falling around 15% to $34.5 billion, and that's compared to $40.7 billion at the same time last year. Just tell us about this trend, because we have seen a deterioration in the reserves. Do you think it's starting to show that perhaps the central bank is sort of left with very little to work with going forward, given the fact that the Naira has depreciated, and of course we know that there has been a lot of concerns about oil revenues that have come to the fore? That is expected to turn around, though, as the oil price increases.
Well, like you said, I mean, a bit of pressure has come into the reserve in the last few weeks. You've actually seen the Naira trading up to the highs of 155 levels. But, I mean, we must commend the central bank for their activities in the market. I mean, we've seen Naira actually gain a 2 percentage point in the course of this week. That's a huge gain. Yes, we've seen a huge, slightly some drop in the reserve levels. But all in all, I mean, looking at the reserve levels and the level of imports that it's supposed to cover, I think we still stand over the cover of over 17 months of imports, which is a good level in terms of general economic indices. Outside of that, on the back of rising oil prices, increased production, and also the other indices that are flowing into the market, I think reserve level will begin to build up. Notwithstanding the fact that in a certain levels we are to a certain extent limited from capital flows that would have impacted on the reserve level. So the shockers that you would have expected on the back of such drop in reserve that would have come in, people taking out capitals, it's not really happening right now because the capital flows are actually on a limited scale. Overall theme on the reserve level will be to ensure stability, and I'm sure that the various indices that contribute to the reserve to ensure that stability actually continues still there, and the positive drivers still continue.
Well, just taking a look at the Naira, because we know that it has been on the back foot for some time now. Do you think that the central bank can try and stop any kind of volatility coming through on the local currency? Or do you think it's movements such as many central banks on a global level will see just movements done in vain? In other words, we'll see some money being taken off the table, wealth eroded, and really no real impact coming through on the local currency. Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, I think first of all, the central bank has come out clearly to say that their exchange rate management policy, they are willing to see through it. The plus or minus 3% band was obviously maintained during this period that we've seen in volatility that threatened to break that band. They've done a good job at that one. They've sent good signals in that. I think what the driver will be at this point is to cut out the level of specs activities that might occur in the market when you see factors that might want to push those speculators coming into the market. I think that they have done successfully. They might not have, they've come out with various means, not arsenal, various means that in terms of managing the reserve, and on a fair overall theme, I think they've succeeded in doing that. Volatility is going to be reduced going forward. We might see some Naira losing a bit of ground over the coming period, but definitely not the kind of volatility that we saw that made them actually bring out some means to manage the